The family of the latest abducted boy speaks out.
Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine weighs in on that recent Grand LUCAYAN LOI signing.
Environmentalists still concerned about that Disney project.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, 2 teenagers facing murder and attempted murder charges in the magistrate's court today. One accused of the deadly stabbing of a junior high school student just last week. Giorgio Bain has the story.
Officers of the Central Detective Unit brought a 16-year-old juvenile before the magistrate's court to face murder charges shortly after noon on Monday. Officers originally brought the teen before Magistrate Cara Turnquest DeVoe in Court 11, where his attorney Ramona Farquharson asked him about his well-being. He said he was feeling a little weak because he had not eaten for the day. The magistrate then ordered officers to take the teen to get something to eat. While in court, the teen turned to family members and said, "I ain't do that. I didn't kill that boy." Crying family members replied, "We know, baby, we know." After his meal, the teen was taken before Magistrate Caroline Evans in Court 6, where he was charged with murder. The teen is accused of the March 26 stabbing death of Perry Roll Jr., a 9th grade student at T.A. Thompson Junior High School. The accused was not required to enter a plea and was made aware of his right to apply for bail in the Supreme Court. He was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on the 7th of May, where he would be presented with a voluntary bill of indictment. Also appearing on murder charges was 18-year-old Deshaun Hart, who was accused of the October 5, 2018 killing of Carl Bullard and was also charged with attempting to kill Elrica Cawley on the same date. He was not required to enter a plea and returns to court on the 7th of May for the service of a BBI. Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
A 3-week break in a recent string of abductions ended just this past weekend after a young boy was taken from in front of his home. Jared Hake spoke to the child's family, who say they are just grateful he was not harmed.
Speaking to Our News, first thing Monday morning, it was clear that the 13-year-old brother of the 8-year-old who was kidnapped was clearly shaken up by the incident.
I was scared. He wasn't coming back.
13-year-old JAYMAR WHYLEY says he and his 8-year-old brother SACHIN Henry were at a neighbor's home when a woman pulled up and beckoned them over to her vehicle. What happened next is an all too familiar story for police.
When he stepped outside, a lady pulled up in a Nissan Tita Silver, and she told us both to look here, and she told me to go call my sister inside. And I heard she say, "Let this little one stay." She was talking to him. She said, "You stay." So when I reached on the porch, she yucked my brother in the car and drive off.
Young JAYMAR says he immediately began to panic, fearful for his little brother's safety.
I was trying to run after the car, try to open the door, but it was locked and she was screwing up the window.
According to police and 8-year-old Sachin, he was dropped off at the city dump unharmed.
I tell her bring me back home.
And she didn't answer.
She answered. She said yes, but she didn't bring me back home.
8-year-old Sachin was shorter on words than his older brother, but he appeared content as he got ready for school on Monday morning. Are you happy you're back home with your family?
Yes, sir.
Police believe the woman who took Sachin is the same woman who abducted 3 other boys in the previous month and a half. Officers have since released 3 composite sketches, and Chief Superintendent Solomon Cash says they're bringing a person of interest into custody for questioning. Back on February 16th, 3-year-old Shavar Bain was kidnapped while riding his bicycle near his South Beach home. He was dropped off at a wash house the following morning. Then on March 6th, 8-year-old Tyvon DeVoe was taken from a park near his home on Emmanuel Drive off Soldier Road. He was later dropped off unharmed near the entrance of the city dump. A similar situation unfolded a day later when 8-year-old Jaquito Sajor was abducted after he and 2 of his friends accepted a ride home from a woman. The woman reportedly allowed Jaquito's friends out of the vehicle near the Cool Acres Haitian village, but made off with him in the car. She eventually dropped him off at the city dump unharmed. Sachin and JAYMAR's mother, Tamara Rose, says the woman responsible needs to be taken off the streets.
I would like this lady to get off the streets because you never know, it might lead to death. This is not a joke because you costing parents heartbreak and you're causing the kids to be fearful. That is not a situation to live in. You can't walk on the street. You're at work, you're thinking about your children. Even at school, home, they're not safe. So I really like someone to come out who know her or who have an idea, because there's someone who always knows something.
Dear God, thank you for a family.
Thank you for family.
And while Rose and her two sons try to cope with a frightening experience, she says their faith keeps them strong.
The love that will be shared with each other
It's a reflection
is a reflection
of our bond with you.
of our bond with you.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
One of 8 senior police officers sent on leave is speaking out tonight as he officially begins pre-retirement leave. As the curtain closes on his decades-long career in law enforcement, Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean says had he not mentally prepared himself for this day, he would have been shocked by instructions to proceed on his year and a half of accumulated leave. Vonnie 2 reports.
Amid controversy surrounding the decision to send several senior police officers on leave, Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean is speaking out and reflecting on his 38 years of service on the force. Dean, who starts pre-retirement leave today, says he's making his exit with no hard feelings.
I have no hard feelings with my service and this organization. I cannot, the character of Stephen Dean cannot delve in things and negative stuff. I have to go into positive stuff.
After dedicating nearly 4 decades of his life to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Stephen Dean begins removing traces of his career from his office, like this picture with Governor General Dame Marguerite Pinling and this wall of academic achievements. On the floor, this half-packed box awaits other memorabilia, while neatly folded moving boxes peek from behind a cabinet. Then there are these old photos that tell the story of a life of service.
This me as a recruit, just passed out of the training school 38 years ago.
Dean begins pre-retirement leave nearly 1 month after the Office of the Prime Minister revealed that 3 senior officers were instructed to proceed on accumulated leave. Days later, 5 more senior officers who had also accumulated quite a bit of vacation time got those same instructions. The Prime Minister has defended the move, questioning what's wrong with taking vacation. However, Dean, who had racked up a year and a half of vacation, says there is a reason police officers accumulate so much time off.
For one to accumulate that amount of vacation, that's a lot of sacrifice. That's a lot of sacrifice because the country was moving at different times. You can imagine during a crime wave that persons in senior command, everybody's on vacation. That can't happen.
The opposition has slammed the move as a political purge. Dean was asked whether he believes politics is at play.
I really don't want to get into that because I don't want my career and my ending be characterized by that.
Pressed on if he was shocked by the decision to send him home, Dean said he may have been had he not been mentally prepared for this eventuality.
I don't think it really is a surprise to me because I was prepared. I think if I was not prepared, it would have been a shock. It would have been a shock. I was prepared. I was prepared from day one. There were some things that happened, but I don't want to delve into that.
As he embarks on a new chapter in his life, the Assistant Commissioner reflects on his time on the force.
We need to get some dangerous people off our streets in New Providence. It is a serious offense to have anyone wanted by the police, anyone wanted for serious crime. We can tell you that these are some dangerous persons who are out there.
Including 2 years in Mayaguana, 3 years in Cat Island, the National Neighborhood Watch Program, and Urban Renewal, which he labeled a good program.
The Urban Renewal projects that we won 3 consecutive years back-to-back. I think when I sat on the stage in the U.S. and we were able to take photographs receiving those awards, they were some of the most memorable moments of my career.
He also takes with him pictures with and memories of the many powerful people he rubbed shoulders with during his years as an officer.
It's me here with popular Robert Mueller.
Dean, who admits joining the police force was not his first choice, says it's not easy leaving the place that has become his second home or the people who have become like family. However, the 55-year-old father looks forward to spending more time with his 2 children and his wife of 24 years, giving back to the community and maybe even starting his own business. He says he accomplished all he wanted to on the force and he walks away with no regrets.
Everything that I have earned. I have no regrets even leaving at this point because I believe that it's at some point, persons like myself must make room for other persons in this organization to unleash their talents. Someone made room for me. Someone had to move out of the way for me to get in the position that I'm in. So I have to put away my selfish ambitions to allow room for other persons.
Reporting for our news, I'm Monique Tude.
Thanks, Monique. Well, outspoken Free National Movement Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge, Frederick McAlpine, says he has some serious questions about the government's recent move to sign a letter of intent for the purchase of the Grand LUCAYAN Hotel. Jasmine Brown has more.
McAlpine says he took note of that signing. However, he's of the view that there is a lot more work to be done. McAlpine made the comments on Peace FM's radio talk show, The Last Word with Steve McKinney, on Sunday evening. The Pine Ridge MP's comments were widely circulated as a 3-minute audio clip across social media. McAlpine confirmed the comments but declined to make further statements on the issue. But he was far more vocal on the show as he insisted the last thing he wants is for government to fail. However, he said he isn't convinced the LOI means anything.
I would want nothing best than to have the government succeed, because when the government succeeds, the people of the country succeeds. I'm not sitting down waiting for the doom and gloom and failure of the government. That having been said, sir, I need to remind the country that a letter of intent is not a purchase. And may I also remind the country that this would not have been the first letter of intent. The Wynn Group also had a letter of intent and still at the end of the day did not purchase.
The Office of the Prime Minister announced in Grand Bahama last Wednesday that LUCAYAN Renewal Holdings Limited signed a letter of intent with Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited and the ITM Group for the purchase of the Grand LUCAYAN Resort on Grand Bahama for $65 million and the redevelopment of the Freeport Harbor. The announcement said the first phase of the $195 million development is expected to create 2,000 jobs over 2 years. Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar has said it will take 6 months for the government to complete the heads of agreement. McAlpine says that timeline is too long.
That's a pretty long time if you already have a done deal. I don't see why it needs to take 6 months as opposed to 30 to 60 or even 90 days.
McAlpine is not the only member of Parliament to express his doubts about the LOI. Progressive Liberal Party Deputy Leader and MP for the Exumas and Ragged Island, Chester Cooper, says he doesn't understand how the announced investment will create thousands of jobs when other developments have invested more and created fewer jobs. Despite the doubts, McAlpine says he is hopeful for the sake of thousands of suffering Grand Bahamians.
We wish the government all the best for the people of Grand Bahama, because we have been in a drought or a famine for a very long time. But again, I am like most Grand Bahamians. I will be excited when the hotel is purchased and not with an intention to purchase.
The government purchased the resort last year for $65 million with $30 million paid up front. Before the resort is sold, the government has to resolve any outstanding voluntary separation packages for staff wanting to leave. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Police confirming that at least 5 Grand Bahama shipyard employees have been injured following an incident involving a cruise ship at the shipyard. Our news understands the injuries were not life-threatening. Reports are that a crane collapsed as work was being carried out on the Oasis of the Seas cruise ship. Cell phone footage shows the ship leaning to one side with the floating dock at the shipyard sinking.
Big accident in the shipyard. Working on the big Oasis. Ship collapsed, dock collapsed, crane collapsed. I was right there on the dock, working all just missed it by grace of God. Big accident, big accident. Something the shipyard would never survive from this one. Dock 2 It's gone. Dock 2 is finished. All the cranes collapsed. Big disaster. Big disaster. Disaster. Never seen nothing like this in a lifetime.
Still to come, an environmentalist weighs in on Disney Cruise Line's plans for Lighthouse Point. Plus, another shakeup at BPL as the COO resigns. Stay tuned.